What's going on, fellow A-Plusers? It's your boy Adam Perez. I'm back once again with a brand new episode review as we're set to get into Agatha All Along, episode number 4 for you guys today. A couple of days late. I certainly do apologize. Been kind of hectic around here, but I wanted to go ahead and get to this episode because if I could be quite fair with you, I think this might have been my favorite episode of the season. Really, in the sense that things really feel like it's starting to come together in regards to not only what this season is, but really the chemistry, I think, of everybody here in this coven. I feel like the more and more that they've been on set acting opposite with each other, this is the fourth episode in. I'm always usually under the impression when it comes to television shows that they are in fact sort of filming in order, if you will. And I just think chemistry gets better. They get a better understanding of who their characters are as the season certainly progresses. And I think this is them really hitting their stride. I had a lot of fun with everybody. The fact that we got to see characters bouncing off of each other with some great dialogue, learning a little bit more about each other's past, I thought was really cool to kind of help build that bond and get really personal with the coven a little bit. So the characters and the chemistry, I think, continues to really, really work for me as I find this season fun. It's whimsical. It's definitely witchy at times for sure. Like it embraces like all sides of just witchdom, if you will. If you've watched animated stuff about witches, young adult stuff about witches, adult stuff about witches. I mean, it's a really great mix that I think Jacqueline Schaefer has really kind of brought in. So if you love you a good witch tale, you know what I'm saying? Especially if you're like a fan of like Hocus Pocus or something, right? Like this is definitely going to be up your alley for sure. But I really appreciate that aspect of this season so far. But yeah, I've had a lot of fun with it, honestly. A couple of things about this episode. I love that they continue to do different like period pieces or different genres, if you will, just to kind of keep it fun. I know we're only 4 episodes in, but the fact that this is our second trial and it's been switched up, right, and it puts our coven into like different situations that feel very much like what Jacqueline Schaefer did for WandaVision, right? Like each episode being like a sitcom from a new decade or whatever the case might have been. This seems very similar to that and definitely having its fun with some of the concepts and themes of like the week it can draw from, especially with each one, because it feels like each trial is representing a witch. Last week might have been Jen's. I guess this week was probably Alice, and if episode one was Jen's, or maybe episode one might have been Mrs. Hart, but since everybody's putting the blame on Jen, and I think it was a lot of Jen stuff in the house, if I'm not mistaken, trial one probably would have been Jen, with her being the potions witch. And so I am kind of curious as to what the next trial is going to be. But I've really enjoyed the seasons too, in the sense of the set designs. Like the idea of the witch's road looks so cool. Like the lighting is incredible, the set design is pretty cool. I love the concept of like the moonlight shining through. It just definitely it just has its own aura and its own vibe about it when they're on the witch's road, and I kind of really appreciated that, especially this week when they did the cool magic spell to go ahead and bring in a substitute Green Witch, in which it winds up bringing Aubrey Plaza's character in Rio, I believe is what she calls herself here in this episode. And so I really dug just the casting of the spell and stuff, and just the scene how like what each witch individually would add to what they're hoping that the witch that they get is certainly like from the idea of like, please just have some Advil sort of thing, make her nice to look at sort of mentality. But I thought it was just kind of fun. But yeah, I definitely have my fun time with this season, with this show in general. There's a great there's a great thing that happens in here. I find myself laughing at Agatha and Jen in here, when they're trying to discuss the lyrics to The Witch's Road. And it's one of those things where I think, especially for me as a kid, growing up with like a really old song that I may not, may have thought I knew the lyrics to, but I've been saying it wrong for like all these years, and then just coming to the realization like, what, like Uh, that's not what he's saying the whole entire time. Like I feel like we all have those songs, right, where we can relate to the idea of having the wrong lyrics and somebody else thinking it's one way and you think it's certainly the other after all these years, right? So it was just something that was just so relatable. It made me laugh to see the concept of, even for their own witch's ballad, they still argue over what the correct words are. So I thought that was pretty fun, man. I'm really appreciating what Jack Schaefer is doing with this show so far, quite frankly. And I really loved Aubrey Plaza in here once again as Rio. I think she's doing a remarkable job. But yeah, man, if there was anything that wasn't a fan of in this episode, if I had to nitpick, I thought the ending of this episode was a little bit too abrupt, to be quite frank with you. With them getting a little hot and heavy towards the end, or at least I should say, more passionate with each other, I am just kind of questioning the decision of Rio at that moment, like why she would hit the brakes and interrupt Agatha with news like that, right? Like I'm sure she can certainly sense it, but like why would you drop that bombshell on her now, sort of thing, right? So, is Rio the type that just sets herself up for failure and says the wrong thing at the wrong time, right? Like, is that just who she is? Certainly as a character, I have no idea, but it just felt odd that that's how she would choose to approach that situation. And then the episode just cut off right there. So I was hoping for a little bit more. But other than that, man, I had a blast with this episode. I thought they did an incredible job from the big set pieces, the Witch's Road, the Lorna's ballad version of it. Absolutely incredible, man. Like down, down, down the road. Like I want to go and just listen to that song now. Like it sounds like a legit song now. And so I was a really big fan. They very creative stuff here in this week's episode, and really kind of having fun with this season so far. But guys, I definitely want to sink our teeth into some of the situations here. First, because I was such a big fan of the song, we gotta talk about Alice's trial in here. One, I love the fact that at the beginning of this episode that she gives us further details about her mother's death, and I didn't necessarily connect the dots until after the episode, where she winds up saying that her mom died in a hotel fire, and then based off of where they find themselves at in this particular trial, the fact that she's like in the studio, she's literally representing her mom, you got the fire in the background, sort of thing, right? It feels very much like the curse came for her. Maybe the curse, maybe unfortunately for her mom, the curse won. But it seems like just the identical situation for Alice. And so to kind of see Alice put in that particular position here in this week's episode, I thought it came really full circle for her, certainly as a character. And I was a really big fan too of seeing that they gave Alice some time to kind of reflect on what she went through at the end of this, in the sense of having this resentment towards her mom for all those years of being on the road, right? And not being home and not feeling loved, and whatever the case may be, and really feeling that way towards her mother, and being mad at her and pushing herself away from her mom, only to discover the reason why she did that is that she was keeping that protection spell on her daughter, and really making the song big enough to where it was like a worldwide sort of hit, if you will. You know what I mean? To where, as Agatha points out in here, somebody is singing this song to only protect you from the curse that is definitely on your family. And so, the realization for Alice, for that to kind of come together for her, really worked out in here. And I just thought it was a really well told story in the sense of how they set things up for Alice in the beginning, the trial that she certainly has to get through in the middle, and then her reflection towards the end. So I thought they did a really good job in regards to giving us more insight into the Coven in here. Lilia's character, I think for me, still has a lot of the big question marks. But I also really even appreciate the idea that they gave us some opportunity to sit with Jen and learn a little bit more about her. There was one thing that she said in here about her being an 11th generation root worker, and I had never heard that term before, so I went ahead and looked it up, and it says a root worker is a practitioner of hoodoo. not voodoo, a hoodoo, a spiritual system that originated in the antebellum South with enslaved African Americans. Root workers use herbs, roots, and other natural objects for medicinal and spiritual purposes such as protection, luck, and love spells. Also known as conjure doctors, conjure men or women, or root doctors. And so that goes perfectly with what Jen was capable of doing here in this episode, of using her knowledge of herbs and roots and just natural objects to go ahead and heal. That, along with maybe some spells, and boom, she wind up saving Teen's life in here. And I think she also says she was a midwife too, which I thought was really fascinating. So it makes sense for her to be both of those. Like, they're literally, I can see how she would use some of her root work, especially in her midwife sort of work also. So really cool insight in regards to Jen also in this episode. We did talk a little bit about the idea of Aubrey Plaza as Rio, as her being the one that was summoned as the new sort of green witch. Look, I'm gonna tell you, man, Aubrey Plaza I think is perfect for this role. I think she just pulls it off incredibly well. Sexy, crazy, and dangerous. And I think she does that incredibly well. Whenever she is on the screen, I think especially in, she has great timing in regards to how to deliver certain lines. Her emotions. She's got these several looks that she certainly uses, whether that be exaggerating her big eyes or like just showcasing like the crazy sort of the crazy X or like the serial killer vibes that you get from her, you know what I mean? So she just has really great timing with it, and I think based off of what they're asking for her as this character, it works extremely well. I really love her chemistry, honestly, with Kathryn Hahn in here. I think when they're on screen together, it's hot and steamy, man. It's hot and steamy. So I do think that they have great chemistry with each other for sure. And it was really fun getting an opportunity to see what the Coven's reaction was certainly going to be like to her. Now, look, I had my own personal theory as to who I thought she was going to be. I thought they were going to go the route of Morgan Le Fay. I don't think that's the route that they're certainly going. Now, I personally have already kind of been spoiled as to who Aubrey Plaza is, based off of a Funko Pop image. So if you want to go ahead and find out, you certainly can. I was hoping not to be spoiled, and it just kind of came across me, if you will. And so I'm hoping it's not correct, but the vibes that she's certainly giving off in here, the idea of her talking about, wanting to collect the bodies, and, the way that she's sort of looking at Teen when he's sort of dying, if you will, and Agatha kind of looking at Rio and saying no, in the sense of like, that this is not one of the bodies that you need to be taking now, sort of thing. So it feels very much like it lines up with who I believe that they've already leaked who it is. But again, if you want to go ahead and check it out for yourself, I'm sure you could find it rather easily. But so if that's the case, I totally get it, but I definitely am fascinated and learn a little bit more about her past with Agatha in here. She refers to her as sort of the scar on her heart, if you will. The idea that she wind up hurting Agatha extremely badly because of the fact that she had to do something on her job. Clearly, she cannot not do her job. I would assume Mephisto probably told her to do something, or whatever the case might have been. Had gotten some set of orders. She had to do it. Agatha did not like what Rio certainly had to do, and voila, this is where they find themselves at. I do wonder if this situation happened previously on the road, because Alice does ask Agatha early in this episode, how many witches left with you, and she said one. And so I'm assuming it was Agatha and maybe one other person. And so I do wonder if the last time that Agatha was on the road, if Rio was certainly with her too at that time. So really digging the chemistry and the storyline between her and Agatha. And then really last but not least, I am glad at least that while they set up the question in episode 3 about the who the parents or who the mother is of Teen, and also the idea of showcasing us that Agatha clearly did give up her child for the Darkhold, and really teasing those two connective pieces and putting them together with Agatha and Teen. I had some questions, and so I'm glad that they at least answered those for me. Now, whether or not they're being truthful about those answers, maybe that's something we'll discover by the end of the season. But as of right now, they do advise us it's not Agatha that put the sigil on Teen. Or at least Agatha says she doesn't think so, because clearly, I believe she says um, it would also put the sigil on her too. And so, she says most witches certainly don't want to do that. So I'm under the impression she didn't put the sigil, at least. Now, the other question of whether or not Teen is Agatha's son, I mean, even Teen is maybe even curious, kind of asking if she understands or knows what happened to her child. And so the fact that even Rio in here drops the bombshell of some sort of confirmation for Agatha, who clearly it's been on her mind, the way that she's definitely been reacting to Teen, whether or not that's, she believes that that's her child, or she's just making that sort of emotional connection, thinking maybe her son would probably be, this age at this time, sort of thing. So I am glad that they sort of answered both questions, but again, who knows? We got plenty more episodes to go to see if any of that is true or not. But I'm having fun with it, man. I'm having fun with it. I really appreciated this week's episode. And look, if there's anything I missed in particular, please go ahead and certainly let me know your thoughts in the comment section box below. But yeah, outside of the abrupt ending, I had fun with this, man. I think their chemistry continues to get better and better. I really enjoy the writing. It's fun. Great drama when it's certainly needed. Great character moments. Solid storyline here so far. Always doing something fun and creative each episode. So yeah, I'm really enjoying it. But look, at the end of the day, these are simply my A+ opinions. I want to know yours. Let your thoughts be known in the comment section box below. And until next time, guys, do me a big favor. Take care of yourselves, take care of each other, and keep it A+. I'll talk to you guys later. Bye.